pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we'll do roll call.
Granquist?
Here.
Lange?
Here.
Merrill?
Here.
Clausen?
Here.
Murin?
Here.
Moaning?
Here.
Faust?
Here.
File?
Here.
Okay, under action items here, first, I'm looking for approval of the consent agenda as provided you, council.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to approve the consent agenda. If you would please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right, before we go forward and set the regular agenda for tonight, I think I need to explain and to address what is not on the agenda, but at one time, I think this could cause a little bit of confusion because certainly the city had made publication of TCK being on the agenda tonight, and that application for rezoning for properties certainly on East 25th Street, generally between Omaha Avenue and Michigan Avenue, obviously we have to post that or give notification 10 days in advance. At that time, we were not aware of what has taken place since then. And so when we learned that there actually had been a sale and that it had been completed a few days after that, it is no longer then a valid application because it's not coming from the owner of the property. So as you can see, there's no application on there for that actual item. So with that being said, for those of you that might be here in regard to that TCK zoning, there's no, nothing on the agenda addressing that this evening. So I hope I gave clarification for that. And then as well, council, I would look for approval of the full agenda as is before us.
Make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second to approve the full agenda as is posted here before you.
Before you vote, may I be heard on the approval of the agenda and to follow up
Sure.
on your explanation, Madam Mayor? Did the city receive the assignment that Our Savior Lutheran Church received from TCK Leasing regarding the zoning application in conjunction with the purchase agreement?
I'm not sure what you're asking for. I'm going to let you, yeah, please do. I'm not quite sure exactly.
Yes, and parties had been advised before that there is no provision in the Norfolk City Code for assignment of a lease. They were told that, TCK was told that if they transferred the property, that would terminate their application.
Is there a provision that prohibits an assignment of a zoning application?
The code says, what is it, Val 2738? Code says that you got to own the property, Jason, if you're going to rezone it.
We do own the property.
TCK was the one with the zoning application.
I understand that. We
It
purchased
says
it.
that the owner is the only one that can initiate a zoning application.
A request for a zoning change needs to be made by the actual owner of the property, Jason. That's my understanding as well. So-
Mr. Shuke, did you ever indicate then to Our Savior or any of our agents that a purchase agreement would not affect the zoning application as submitted by TCK Leasing?
Not that I'm aware of. But TCK was told, the authorized representative for that was told that any conveyance of that would terminate the agreement. And of course, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Madden, who is TCK's attorney, Mr. Johnson, no one would tell us what was happening with that. We would ask if there was a sale going on, if that sale was going to was going to occur, and no one was forthright enough to come forward and say, yeah, that's going to happen. It wasn't until Mr. Knopick said that we became aware of. But the TCK was advised, Mr. Madden was advised, Mr. Nelson was advised that it would be terminated, as was Mr. Johnson.
So you acknowledge that our attorneys did advise you of the sale. And in fact, our attorneys sent you the assignment, I believe,
Well,
signed by TCK's representative.
that's without relevance. Mr. Kanape told us that it was done. I don't know why no one would, why that was such a secret, and why no one involved with that would say, yeah, this is what we intend to do.
It's never been a secret. We've been forthright with the city the entire
No,
time.
that's not true, Jason. It's always been a secret. I've
What's
got-
the secret?
Here, it's not true. We have had this notion that the church was going to acquire it. We can go back to October 3rd with Mr. Madden. We can go back to the Friday before that with Mr. Nelson when we asked if that was going to happen. Because, well, if there was going to be a closing, because it was going to abrogate the zoning, okay?
But that's contrary to your email to our council, that it wouldn't in September. We asked you ahead of time before we closed. We could have put off closing had we known that.
Well, I don't recall that, Jason.
So is
I
it the
don't
city's,
recall
is it the city's, I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
I don't know. It's not going to be on the agenda.
Okay. Is it the city's position that the application to rezone 2420 West Omaha Avenue from I-1 to C3 is now null and void?
Absolutely. That's the application that, that's the application that TCK has said since for most of the last year that they didn't want heard anyway.
Well, you're aware that Volcraft appealed that and it's currently pending in the Court of Appeals for the state of Nebraska, are you not?
I certainly am, and are you aware that that has nothing to do with it, Jason?
Maybe it does. Isn't it the applicant's decision to bring their application for a zoning change?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Who determines that for us?
The city code says the city council determines that. The other thing is, despite any information to the contrary, the statute is expressly clear that when the item was appealed to the Board of Adjustment, that had the effect of staying the application until the Board of Adjustment was done. That was in February, or January 20th or whatever. And since that point in time, the TCK has, it's not your application, TCK has consistently and repeatedly told the city council not to take any action on the item.
That's correct. That is correct. Trying to work out an amicable deal where everyone wins. The fact that it's been appealed and appealed and appealed despite being approved by the Planning Commission, the Board of Adjustment, and the District Judge of Madison County.
Is irrelevant.
Isn't it the city's position generally to work with the landowner to find a mutually agreeable time to have a hearing? Or does the city just come out and unilaterally pick when they want to have it heard?
Well,
That's never been my experience.
you asked the question, I'll answer it. The city is the one under the code which is in control of the zoning application. It's not TCK's, it's not SWAD's to determine when that action goes forward. Out of deference, much deference from the city to TCK and to SWAD, they said, hey, can you hold off on this? I got the times, February, whatever.
We don't dispute that we wanted it held off.
Okay. So, but if you've read the code, you're aware that it clearly says the time for action on those is determined by the city council.
And you're saying then you don't want to work in conjunction with the landowner to have that heard at a mutually agreeable time?
Jason,
No,
when was the
nobody said
application made? I'm
Over
not
a year
saying that.
ago.
You're putting what?
Over a year ago.
Guys,
Over a year ago, that's right. We have worked, this council and the elected officials have worked for years with people, and never has an application lingered for a year or more with saying, oh, don't hear the application, don't hear the application, don't hear the application.
But just to be clear, Jason, to be clear on, I think, your question, I just want some clarity on your question. The city is not saying that the new owner of this property cannot request zoning change to commercial or to any other zoning district they request. So I just want to be clear because you.
I understand. We're on the same page there.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause you're-
I agree, Shane. But what I'm hearing you say then is, even though this is the same building on the same property and would be an identical application, you want the church now, the new owner, to start from square one, go through the planning commission again? If it gets appealed, go through the Board of Adjustments again. If it gets appealed, go through the district court again. Go through the same channels we've already done.
Well,
Is that the city's position?
there's all kinds of problems that come up with an application, and I don't know that how many of these are applicable. I don't know if notice has been given to the right people, has other properties sold, the 300-foot, the adjoining properties.
Notice for what? A hearing?
Yes.
But we're not even asking for a hearing right now. We're trying to clarify why your position is that it's null and void. You're saying that we have to start from square one.
Position that has been explained to the applicant, if you know, and it really doesn't matter, Jason.
Well, it matters to us.
Why?
To start from square one, wait 6 months to apply again, and then start from the very beginning?
Why would you
For
have
the
to wait 6
exact
months to
same
apply?
For the exact same application? I'm
Why would you have to
referencing.
wait 6
I'm-
months to
Hey,
apply?
hey, hey, Clint, calm down, everyone. You don't have to
You
wait
can
6
do it-
months.
you
You
can
can
do
do
it.
it tomorrow, and you can come back before the planning commission as Our Savior Lutheran Church, owner of the property, and ask for Jason.
And-
That's,
Thank you then for clarifying that, because that's
And-
contrary to what we had been told before,
By whom?
by you.
Jason, let's.
We're not getting anywhere
No,
with
let's
that.
go ahead and have a conversation about all the misinformation that has been promulgated in regard to what used to be the TCGA application. That would be a great conversation for this community to have.
Okay? Did polling this have anything to do with the Department of Justice letter?
No.
not at all, Jason.
Okay.
Not at all.
What Department
That's
of
unfair.
Justice letter?
Is there a letter that the city received from the Department of Justice?
I don't know, you tell me.
I'm asking you,
You
Yes.
referenced it, how do you know?
because they informed us that there was. So I'm asking you if there
complained
was.
to the Department of Justice?
We did not.
Yes, there has been a letter received.
Thank you.
So the Department of Justice.
we see a copy of it?
The Department of Justice called you to tell you about a complaint that you hadn't made?
No, I didn't talk to the Department of Justice.
You just said they called you.
I'm sorry. They did not call me personally. I was informed that a letter was sent.
By whom?
You're not disputing that.
By whom? Who
By our
told you the letter
counsel.
was sent?
By our counsel.
Your counsel contacted the Department of Justice, is that correct?
I'm not saying that either.
Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying let's move on. Can we?
The fact of the matter, Jason, is we have received a letter from the Department of Justice.
May we see a copy of it?
Why do you need to see a copy of it? It's addressed to the city of Norfolk,
I'm a citizen of the city of Norfolk.
and we're,
I don't have one in front of me. I don't know that anybody else does, but I believe we probably can take care of that.
we can provide those copies.
Yes.
Are you making a request?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's not a public records request unless it's in writing.
It will be, I'm sure, Jason.
I'll do that. I'll get it ready.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
But
All
to be
right.
clear, Mayor and Council, we have received a letter from the Department of Justice based on a complaint that, to investigate a potential charge, preliminary investigation of a potential charge or violation of the RLUIPA
I'm
federal
not sure, Shane, that it's a charge. I think it's a complaint.
complaint. I didn't mean to say charge. Preliminary.
So with that, can I have a motion that we approve the agenda as you see it? Do we have a motion? We have a motion. I'm sorry, we don't have a second? Or we do? Well, then, let's vote. State your name for us, if you will.
My name is Bruce Finley. I live 412 Hastings Avenue. I'm partially, part of my time I spend doing neighborhood watches around town. One of the things I've talked to a lot of people around town is certain things go wrong in the city, or there's red tape and they can't get something done. And the citizens seem to have given up their Fourth Amendment property rights, and they let the city manage it as a boss would, not as a civil servant would. The city's supposed to be there to work for the citizens, to make this sort of stuff like just happen instantly. Like, this should have just been settled right here and right now. Like, I don't understand. The point I'm getting at here is when you choose to live in a city and you have these people up here who don't represent you talk about how you can do this or that to your property, it causes all kinds of problems. And it puts them in the position to where they can pick winners and losers. They also get to decide how your money is spent, like with the new text for the library edition. Now, I was totally for donating money to the library to get that done.
Right, okay.
And this is a perfect example of where the city gets in the way of the people. Like,
Sir,
there's
you know
no
what?
debate here. There's no problem
Right,
here.
I understand where you're going, and I'm going to ask you to give us the courtesy to come back and share your thoughts and ideas at a time when it's an open session, if you would. We're trying to move on with the city council meeting. We'll have a lot on the agenda tonight that we need to take care of. Respectfully so, I understand what you're saying, but I think you need to understand too, the discussion that was had was because of the inability, I believe, and I think is actually true. If you do not own the property, then it's not your turn to talk about how it is that it should or should not be rezoned. So we'll have an open session coming up but at this point, we're trying to move forward with an agenda
Just
stated.
10 seconds, just to say one thing. The city shouldn't decide how the zoning is. It causes too many problems. The people who live there should decide.
Appreciate that. All right, are we ready to vote? Please do.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right, on to some special presentations, if I'm not mistaken. What are we doing first? That's first before the awards? Okay. All right. Welcome to our world, Citizens 101. It's great to have you here. So I have a proclamation in front of me here for Small Business Saturday. Whereas the city of Norfolk, Nebraska celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 28.8 million small businesses in the United States, and they represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States and are responsible for 63% of the new jobs created over the past 20 years. And whereas small businesses employ over 49% of all businesses with employees in the United States, and whereas 89% of the consumers in the United States agree that small businesses contribute positively to local community by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue, and whereas 93% of the consumers in the United States agree that it is important for people to support small businesses that they value in their community. And whereas the city of Norfolk, Nebraska supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Sue Fuchman, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2016 as Small Business Saturday in the City of Norfolk, and I urge all of us, as citizens of our community and our communities across the country, to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And you don't think there's anyone here? Okay. I don't see Mark from the chamber, so we'll make sure he gets it. Next, we have a proclamation to read aloud for a child month. And I see young people here, so I'm looking forward to seeing you come up and talk a little bit. Whereas literacy is a fundamental building block of all learning and is essential to the growth and the success of every child in our city. And whereas reading to children enlarges their vocabulary and enhances their listening skills, thereby fostering intellectual growth and a more positive attitude toward reading. And whereas reading to a child is a simple and a priceless act that benefits both adult and child, positively contributing to family literacy and strengthening the bond between a parent and child. And whereas when parents assume the responsibility for children's literacy, making a commitment to read for 15 minutes a day, children become more healthy, resilient, and inquisitive. And whereas Read Aloud to Your Child for 15 minutes a day is a nationally recognized program that has been in existence for more than 25 years, and whereas Read Aloud Norfolk, the Norfolk Public Library, Norfolk area schools, and other organizations representing parents, teachers, librarians, and concerned citizens advocate for reading aloud to children because it fosters healthy interaction between adults and children. Whereas reading aloud to children will enhance family literacy and the well-being of young people throughout the city. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Sue Fuchman, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim November 2016 as Read Aloud to a Child Month in the City of Norfolk and surrounding area. And I encourage all parents, teachers, librarians, and other caring adults to read aloud to a child. So I know there's some in here that are here to talk to and receive the proclamation. Will you come forward? Look at these little ladies. Are you ready to state your name to these people out here? Can you do that? You want to talk into the microphone? How about that? Let me bring it down just a little bit for you. Can you state your name loud and clear?
My name is Mallory Wolf, and I'm a third grader at Norfolk Catholic School.
Okay.
My name is JC Wolf, and I'm a fifth grader. My name is Brinley Wolf, and I am 5 years old.
And who reads to you at home? Mom or big sisters? Mom. Yeah. She's a pretty good mom. Lisa, are you going to come up and mark? Okay. You're going to take a picture. Lisa's been instrumental all across this community in making sure all of our schools have the ability to have books in the schools. She does a great program, is a great resource for this community to be able to talk about the importance of reading. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, young ladies, for talking about Now, we're ready for citizens? Yes. All right. Citizens Academy. So Diane Becker, where are you? Right here. I got a lot of papers up here, so bear with me. Okay. Citizens Academy recognition. Tonight we're going to recognize the 4th class of the Norfolk 101 Citizen Academy. There have been 66 citizens now who have completed this 8-week program. 13 of these citizens are now serving on a board or a commission within this city. Norfolk 101 was started in 2014 to give citizens an opportunity to go behind the scenes of city government to see firsthand the diverse operation of the divisions responsible for roads, for our clean water, our parks, public safety, and a host of other services. Each Tuesday night, the group met at one of the city divisions for 3 hours to listen to presentations from city managers and staff and tour the city facilities. Thanks to the Norfolk 101 participants who gave it their time to be involved in this program, and also to the city Norfolk division managers and certainly the staff that was there with them who gave the presentation and took time to give a tour. So we're currently now, right, Diane, taking application for Norfolk 101 Citizens Academy 2017. So space is limited. Diane says only so many. So inquire at the City Communication Office for more information. And certainly, any and all of you are invited to stay for cheese and cracker reception after the City Council meeting. So, is that right, Diane? Yes. We do have it? Okay, all right. So with all that being said, why don't all of you come up and receive your certificate, if you would? And we'll start with Brian Horst. Where are you, Brian? I think Diane's gonna ask you to stay up here on you because she's gonna want to get a picture of all of her group. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay, and we have next Tracy Jeffrey. Obviously, I don't know the alphabet. Congratulations. Linda Jones? No, we were. Linda Jones? Congratulations, thank you for being a part of it. How about Marissa Lee?
Stand right here, I dare.
I dare you, he said.
Andrea Lager? Am I saying that right? Ledger? Oh, that's okay. Thank you. And Jarrett Ledger? She took the beat. I promise. John Grieve? Hey, it's better, thank you. And Clyde Means? He's not here. He went? He's not here. He's not here? How about Kathy Means? I think she is. Josh Moaning, are you gonna come on down? Well, it's not signed by the city administrator, so I don't know if that's a problem or not, but.
I got a pass on pass fail.
Thanks, Josh, I think you will agree. Found out a lot.
Yes,
Before you take-
very worthwhile.
Yep,
I learned a lot.
yep, you're ready to go now, right? How about John Robertson?
I'm gonna talk for tomorrow.
Congratulations, John.
2 weeks. 3 weeks.
He's gonna get voted in first.
Yeah.
There might be a lot of write-ins.
Corey Granquist.
There you go. Thanks very much. And Deb Trainer.
After the start of this meeting, I'm thinking about quitting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
turn
you.
your mic on. The mic.
How about Larry Wenzel? There you go. Thanks.
I'm glad there's a wall
Jay Wolf?
here. Clint was about ready to go over there.
And Shelley Wolf.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good, good. Shelley, thanks. Yep. There you are, your 2016 Citizen Academy 101.
The second speaker at the beginning.
One that doesn't have.
A government's rank.
Yeah.
Oh, now where are we? Oh, bigger and better things. Oh, the Greenleaf. All right, now we have a presentation for the Greenleaf Award. The City of Norfolk Tree Advisory Board gives out the Greenleaf Landscape Award each year to one resident and to one business who have outstanding landscaping that includes use of trees in the landscape, diversity of plantings and proper water management, and a pleasing aesthetic setting. This year, the Greenleaf Residential Landscape Award goes to Marcia Eckert, who resides at 2207 Clearfield. Marcia, I do not see you in here.
Yes, she is.
Where? Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see you, Marcia. I apologize. Come forward. Congratulations. And I think the important piece of this is everything that is done, that address is done. So, yeah. I know. What'd you say?
She's taking, the young lady wanted to take a picture too.
Oh. All right, and then the one for business goes to Dietz. I don't think anybody can argue that. Dietz Home Store at 2010 South 13th Street. So, Mr. Dietz and group. You can hold it. Thanks, you guys, for what it is you do. Certainly, recognition is deserving. Thank you.
Proclamation.
Read it lined up accordingly, see?
Just making sure I lean out.
She is, was it? Yeah.
Now, moving on to public hearing? No? Town hall meeting. We have a town hall meeting to receive comments on the Northeast Nebraska Solid Waste Coalition budget and rates for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2017. And I believe that's you, Randy.
Yes, Your Honor. This is something we do every year. The city belongs to the Northeast Nebraska Solid Waste Coalition, and the Northeast Nebraska Solid Waste Coalition interlocal agreement requires a town hall meeting be held on the budget and rates every year in the three largest communities, and Norfolk, Columbus, and Fremont are those three largest communities. The coalition board met on September 29th and approved the budget included in the agenda packet for presentation at these town hall meetings. The budget and the agenda packet assumes Waste Connections continues operation of the coalition landfill with no fee increase, and tipping fees remain unchanged at $24 per ton. Balance forward decreases $1.3 million in this year's budget, primarily due to the construction of Cell 5, which was undertaken last year. Use fees increases $35,000 or 1.4% due to a 1,471 ton increase in budgeted tonnage. Interest income increases $1,000 due to an increase in budgeted interest rate from 0.15 to 0.3% this year. Personnel cost is a fairly big change percentage-wise. It increases $19,555 or over 29%. Until January 2015, the coalition had operated with one full-time employee and one part-time employee. But when the full-time employee went to part-time on January 1 of 2015, the coalition tried just adding another part-time employee and operating with 3 part-time employees instead of a full-time and a part-time employee. That wasn't working too well. We were having difficulty finding employees who wanted to work part-time. And the board approved at their April meeting going back to 1 full-time and 1 part-time employee. And that's why the increase in personnel cost in this budget. It includes also a 2% cost of living adjustment and a $1,000 per month health insurance stipend for the full-time employee. Disposal fees increased $7,722 due to the increase in budgeted tonnage. Other professional fees decreased $25,000, almost 11%, primarily due to the Tier 2 monitoring that was budgeted in the prior year. Also decreasing is the interfund operating transfer out, which goes down $1,200 to $267,200. And this is a transfer made every year from the coalition's operating fund to the post-closure fund, which is where we're sucking money away to pay for closing the landfill and then taking care of it for 30 years after it's closed. The capital outlay budget goes way down because of Cell 5 construction last year. It's $250,000 this year and consists of the remaining engineering and construction of Cell 5 and $15,000 to extend the depth of a test well. That's pretty much goes through the general fund budget, and also included in the agenda packet is the post-closure care fund budget. As I just mentioned, the transfer from the operating fund decreases $1,200, and the funds available in the post-closure care fund increase 6.38% from about $6.6 million last year to a little over $7.1 million this year. Approximately half of that increase is due to interest earnings and half due to current year funding. That answer any questions?
Randy, the 1,471 growth in tonnage, anything in particular lead to that, or?
I don't believe there was any real reason you can point to that says that what caused that increase. We budget what we got in the prior year and increase that. I believe it's 5 or 6%, just in case the tonnage grows, and that way we won't go over budget. I don't believe there was any particular thing to point to for that increase. We had a big increase in tonnage last year when the October tornado came in, but we didn't rebudget that again, of course. I believe this was just a normal growth in tonnage.
Okay. Then The last thing, and I know because we made the cells bigger or let them grow taller that way. What's our life expectancy, or did they say right
I
now?
believe it's right around 30 years.
Should have capacity out to about 2043,
2043? Okay, thank you.
so we'll have to start looking long before then for,
Yeah.
Okay, any other council that has any questions? Seeing none? All right. Thanks, Randy. Now we're moving on to public hearings, and we have a public hearing before us tonight at the request of SWAT LLC to consider a zone change from I-1 Industrial to C3 on property located on South 25th Street, south of Michigan Avenue. This hearing was removed from the October 3rd, 2016 council agenda at the request of the authorized agent for SWAT LLC. Paul, before I actually open the public hearing, I'm going to look to you and advise you that the request that you've made on the original application is for a parking lot. A parking lot is what reads on the original application, to put in a parking lot. You can put that parking lot, Paul, in any zone you want in your community.
What you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about the original application that was presented to us back October 5 of 2015. And the purpose for it was for a parking lot. Normally, this council hears and listens to what the request is for. You can put that anywhere you want to. And at this time, the only reason I bring this up, Paul, is because you are well aware. We're in the midst of working hard, diligently, and spending $80-some thousand on a new comprehensive plan. And that being said, certainly you've been made aware of that. You've been a part of it. I encourage you to come back and be a part when it's going to be open for first viewing, first draft, to the entire community on November 17th. But at this... November 17th? Right. At the City Council chambers at 5 o'clock. So rather than go forward and, you know...
What does the parking lot, I don't understand that issue at all.
The application that was presented to the Planning Commission and to the city was that there was a need for a parking lot on that property. And therefore,
What relevance does that have tonight?
the fact is you can put that in that I zoning right now. So my point is, why would you ask us to change the zoning when in fact we're going to be looking at a new comprehensive plan? I just ask you to give us consideration of that because truly,
And this
That's-
is just coming up this evening, and it's coming to light that there's
I
a
think-
parking lot here? Or I
No,
don't
that's-
even know, do we have our application? Can I see a copy of it?
No, right here's one.
I don't
Yeah.
remember filling it out. Dick Johnson filled it out.
well, Dick Johnson, you're going to take the hit on this one, I guess, but that is what is shown on there. And that is what was given. We went back, if I remember right, at the Planning Commission, it was discussed for a parking lot.
It was one, I guess, yeah, one. We've
My
since-
point is-
I've since donated an acre to them.
Okay, and that's great. But if in fact what you want to do is put in a parking lot, you have every right to put in a parking lot at that point.
That's not why I'm here.
I know you're,
There's about 300 things that can go in commercial or I-1 zoning.
absolutely, understand
The
it.
request was made because the church was talking about putting in a parking lot, and part of the land was going to be going to that.
Okay,
The rest of it, there's other things that Paul can and would want to do with it.
I don't disagree, and we would love to see Paul.
Because we asked for a parking lot doesn't make sense.
Well, that's what's on the application. I'm just telling him he has the ability to do that if that's what the need is. At this point, we are sitting, working on a comprehensive plan. Will you please work with us to allow that to come forward and let's see? Well, you know, it works both ways,
I've been
Paul.
told what's on the comprehensive plan, and it would probably.
Who's told you this?
I've indicated what's on the comprehensive plan. Shane and Troy.
have indicated what's on the comprehensive plan. We don't have a final that's been approved by this.
No, we don't have a
yet.
final. We did discuss the fact that the steering committee looked at, which we normally would do through the steering committee
I have
process.
a pretty good feeling for what's on the comprehensive plan, and it doesn't apply to anything that
It's
I
a
want.
future land use map that we discussed. We discussed the future land use map, the draft.
You're
There
layering
was,
a layer of BP through there.
and there will be plenty of opportunity on the 17th to
And
discuss that
that's what
and
it's all about.
offer your
It's not all
input.
about what
This
you,
is not about a comprehensive plan, it's about
it is
me
for
moving
us.
forward with my zoning.
Okay, I understand your request.
And he's able
I
to.
do understand. But I think as far as elected officials, I think we need to look at a comprehensive plan that we have asked the citizens of this community to come forward and help us
How
put
about looking
together.
at the current comprehensive plan, and
Because,
using that for a guide?
you know what, Paul? For the last 15 years, we have tried to consider a new comprehensive, I'm sorry, that's kind of a lengthy time. I do know when J.J. Snodgrass was here, he pushed for it back then and said we had to make some changes, we needed to take a look. Things are happening for us right now in this community, and that's great. New opportunities. Nobody wants to see anybody be more successful than I do within this community.
Well, I'm
But-
trying to rezone my property for the highest and best use as per
I agree.
what the comprehensive plan today tells me it is. And please listen here now.
Okay?
When we purchased that property, and I've told you people this before, we did our due diligence. We were well aware that it was light industrial, but we looked at the comprehensive plan and relied heavily on that it's C3 property was
Okay.
permissible in that area. We relied on that comprehensive plan, but now you're telling me you want me to wait for a new comprehensive plan.
I'm just asking you.
New comprehensive plan that
I'm
will
just
obviously
asking
be
you.
different than what the current one is.
I don't know that.
So that's what you're gonna hang your hat on now, is the new comprehensive
What?
plan, that I should wait.
Okay, Paul, then, I'll just go ahead and open the public hearing then, if that's what you want me to do. These elected officials will vote. Please understand, though, as was discussed last time, and
So, you know,
Paul, I will open it, and then you can speak all you want to it, and anyone else that wants to, too. But again, if the elected body here, and I have no idea how this elected body would vote.
I have no idea either. I've not
Okay.
talked to any of them.
Great. But if you want me to open the public hearing, I'm glad to do that. We'll go forward with it. I'm just telling you, if we deny it here though, Paul, it's 6 months before you can come back and request.
I've been there before. I've been denied my zoning on this property before for 6 months.
Exactly right. I know that. I know that. I'm just reminding you, and I'm letting you tell me, if you want me to open the public hearing, I'm glad to do it for you. And we'll
So you
see.
know, we're 600 feet away from Volcraft.
Yes.
We're 600 feet. Did you get the maps? Did you hand the maps out, just so you know? Can I hand those out to you before you do whatever you're gonna do?
You tell me what I'm gonna do.
I don't know what you're gonna do, but I have a handout, or
Okay,
Dick does,
that's
that I'd
fine.
like you to just look at.
Hearing should open.
Okay?
You can surely look at a piece of
Okay,
paper
okay.
before you open
Paul?
it.
We'll go ahead and open the public hearing,
I'd like
because,
to-
well,
It's relative to what you're talking about before
Okay.
you open the meeting, so I'd like to show you this map before you open the meeting.
what difference does that make? If I'm gonna open the hearing, I mean, we're gonna look at it before the hearing, and you're gonna ask for input? What? You know, again.
You're giving me input, you're telling me to wait for the comprehensive plan.
Yes, that's all I recommended. That was my recommendation. What? Sure.
Paul,
And
can we just take a step back here? All that the mayor was saying is, your application was made in October of
I'm
2015.
well aware of that,
And again, you've asked repeatedly to have that
because
be,
Because why, Clint?
because you've asked.
because you, okay,
Because I've what?
because it's been appealed, it's been,
Well, I can address, the appeal hasn't had anything to do with this since February. All that the mayor started off by asking you was that you had an application, and you did, I don't know, did you get a copy of the application? It said on paragraph number 4, it says,
And why do you bring
what do you want to do? And you say you want a parking lot, and the mayor was merely saying, you don't need to change the zoning to have a
it's
parking.
amazing that you just bring that up tonight, Clint. For the last 10 months, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Well-
since we applied for this
Well, Paul,
application.
Paul,
the
it's your,
first time it came
it's
in.
your application.
It's the first time that it came up for a
Okay.
reason to not, whatever your reason is
All,
there.
all that the discussion was aimed at was the community, the folks at the planning commission has spent a considerable amount of time. I've seen you at the meetings as well, in this room and otherwise, when they've talked about the maps. They're in the process, we're a few months away from having a completed comprehensive plan. And all the mayor was saying was this, is that since you wanted a parking lot, and if you want to, that's what you said, you wanted a parking lot. And so you can have the parking lot without changing the zoning.
As Dick said, though, we have other concerns for the
Okay.
rest of our property, which is.
The other part of that the mayor was, and correct me if I'm wrong, was really saying, would you consider waiting until the comprehensive plan was completed so that you were making those things with the new comprehensive plan in mind? Because you say, you know, I know that there's some.
How can I make that decision when I haven't seen the comprehensive plan? If you want to show me the comprehensive plan, I can make that decision.
Well, and that's exactly what the mayor
I
said.
can't make that decision without seeing.
Exactly what the mayor said
Well, you
is
make a
that.
decision not having seen something.
Exactly what the mayor was saying was that you'd have the opportunity, there's a meeting scheduled on November 17th.
I would say,
to
in
do
light
that.
of what I've heard this evening, the atmosphere in this room, that I will ask that my application be withdrawn for this evening. In light of the letter coming from the DOJ that you've received, I'm gonna wait and see how that turns out and proceed from there, I guess.
Paul, I would like to hope that you're going to be there on the 17th and give me your opinion. So with that being,
I thought I was part of the committee.
you are part of the
No,
committee.
I wasn't. I was invited to, I was on a focus group. We were
Okay.
invited to one token meeting for an hour, and that's all. I've asked for information beyond that, and they just refused to give it to you.
You were a stakeholder as well, weren't you, Paul? Weren't you interviewed independently? I believe so. You was one of the primary stakeholders that they interviewed independently.
Okay, so at this point, Dick, are we,
Point of clarification, Your Honor.
Sir.
I think when he said withdrawn, I just want to make sure that it's just tabled,
tabled?
not withdrawing the application.
Well, here, we're now in the state of confusion, okay? You ready to go there with me?
Do they charge taxes?
No,
Okay.
no. The question that I have, is that I do think, and I think, Dick, we had some, I think that there's some benefits to seeing where that goes. This application has been here for a long time. If you really want to have a parking lot, which is what the application said, you can have a parking lot, but without any change in zoning. The question that I have is, I'm not sure if the public hearing has been opened or not opened. And
No,
it has not been
it has
opened.
not been opened.
And if it has not been opened, I think that if Mr. Mettleman, on behalf of SWAT, or you, Dick, are saying that it's appropriate not to have the hearing and wait and go forward, and look at what comes forth from the comprehensive plan, we can be right where we've been. The zoning application that you filed on October 5th, 2015, can be viewed as continuing to be in effect. There would be no action taken on that, which means that application would not be denied. It would not result in the 6 months, and it's there for another day.
Okay.
My question is, so that there's an understanding, based on what Mr. Mettleman was saying, is that where we're at?
That's what I interpreted. I just want to make sure that the whole application didn't get withdrawn and we had to go back to square one.
No. I don't believe,
Do you want to answer?
Okay.
He wants to visit with Mr. Mettleman to see where we're at.
is Mr. Mettleman, is Paul okay with this? Is this what he's wanting
He
us to
said,
do?
I heard him talking about withdrawing it for
Right.
tonight only, and I just wanted to clarify that was just
For tonight?
tonight for the hearing and the action, and that it would be taken up at some future date.
Do we-
Yeah, and not a date certain,
No,
not a date certain.
no.
Okay.
All
And
right.
I had just mentioned to the mayor if she wanted to give you a moment to visit with Paul to see if that's where we're at, or we're okay wherever we're at.
Okay. I think we're okay.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate it, Dick.
Thank you.
Thank you. So therefore, we will remove item 28 and 29, which would be.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and we're going to move down to the regular agenda then, which is, you know what?
You're not on-
We're in the midst of.
Anything, like, I really
Okay.
just want to say one more thing.
Sir, you know what? There's no public hearing on this item. We're going ahead with our regular agenda, and as I've suggested, we have open sessions where you can come forward and speak to.
I'll be
Okay?
there. I'll
So,
be there. But,
great. Thanks very
There's one
much.
thing I really have to say.
I think,
Your planning for the thing, the planning commission, sounds a lot like the planned economy stuff that we hear all the time about Russia.
wow, I don't think so. I don't agree with that at all, sir. So, let's go.
This
Let's
is
go.
America, Stan.
Yeah, thanks very much. All right, consideration of ordinance number 5431, approving the zoning change from agriculture to OD office district on property addressed at 3204 West Benjamin Avenue. Ordinance number 5431 was tabled at the September 19th, 2016 City Council meeting and pulled from the October 3rd, 2016 City Council agenda at the request of the applicant. Ordinance 5431 has passed on first reading only at the October 17th, 2016 regular City Council meeting. So if I could I have a motion to, for consideration of this on second reading?
Your Honor, I would offer ordinance number 5431 on second reading.
We have a second to that. Josh, all right. Discussion? What? Yeah, right. Is there anyone who needs to speak to this? Where are we with this now? Discussion? Want a little discussion on this? None for you? Anyone else have some discussion, questions
Well,
on
I guess
this?
the only thing that I would say is, I mean, the last time I believe it did not pass on second and third intentionally, just to see if there was more input or any additional information that would be coming on out that way. I have heard nothing. I don't know if anybody else has that way. The discussion that occurred, at the last time, bantered back and forth somewhat about the type of zoning that was occurring in there and the condition of the surrounding properties. And although it is different zoning than the residential around through there, I believe the screening that's occurring by the owner of the golf course actually protects the residential properties there, and though it may not be ideal, it is actually probably the best and highest use of that, short of single-family residential there, which I don't see as going to occur. So,
Mayor, if
with that being said, I would let anybody else put input, including
City administrator?
City administrator.
If I may, Mayor and Council, staff has been working. There was, in the first reading, there was some concerns about the mixed-use OD zoning district and the possibility of allowing multifamily residential in that neighborhood. There was some concerns expressed that. We did have a subcommittee meeting on that, and staff is working on that zoning change to tighten that up a little bit so that would not be in there. And I think Val and perhaps Clint they've been doing the lion's share of the work on that. But if you can explain that a little further, Val, that'd be great, or Clint.
Yeah, after the subcommittee where we discussed this, we did take
to you,
that
Val, will you?
to an ordinance that will be heard at Planning Commission tomorrow morning, that the multifamily that is currently permitted use in OD district is now, if it passes at Planning Commission and at council then, will be a conditional use. So we do have areas in town that have OD districts that multifamily could potentially be an appropriate use, and other areas of OD that maybe it's not the best use, that it should stay more of a commercial office. And so that's just giving the flexibility and that protection that you can have both based on a case-by-case basis.
So if that's approved tomorrow, Planning Commission, Val, then that action will hit the city council agenda at the next regular scheduled meeting, which
Right.
would be the third reading if you just passed it on the second reading tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
I just want to say that I'm the other councilman in this area. I agree with Jim on that, and I do have a quick comment I want to make after we vote on this, just to clarify a couple things.
All right. Anyone else that has any input on this? Do we have a short title of that?
Yes. An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right. With that, I'd ask for your vote.
Voting in favor of ordinance 5431 on second reading, council members Langy, Merrill, Clausen, Murin, Moaning, Faust, File. Voting against the ordinance on second reading, Councilman Granquist. Ordinance 5431 carries on second reading.
Councilman?
I just wanted to make a comment that the gentleman that has talked a couple times tonight said that somebody else should be making the zoning changes and things, and that's kind of what this body does, so we're elected for the people, by the people to do this. But I think Diane might have a new speaker at her 101 Academy if she wants to do that, so just wanted to throw that out. But we are elected to do this, and we are elected by the people to do these decisions for the people.
Point well made, and please understand, there's always a lot of different opinions out there, folks. So again, I appreciate your comment, and I will encourage Diane to think twice about your suggestion there. So,
I would add just a bit, that's great clarity. Though the zoning, the context of the city management is important, because zoning is one of the tools that city governments have to make sure that their city grows in a consecutive and pertinent and prudent manner. And we use that. Otherwise, if you didn't have zoning, you would have a whole bunch of mixed uses, of incompatible uses oftentimes bumping up against each other. And that's what zoning at its root is really all about, to protect what's there and the investment the community continues to make, and that's why we do that.
great clarification. So, that being said, you understand what clarification we gave gentlemen back there as far as the request and what will be heard tomorrow at the Planning Commission as far as a recommendation? You okay? Do you understand what we're saying and why?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We're comfortable with that. This is what we talked about before at the last meeting.
Right.
We were,
Great.
it's done. It's a
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. You've been through one with us.
We're just basically taking what the citizens are saying they don't want there, and we're kind of cleaning it up so that if you guys do what you're doing, everybody's fine. Okay.
Great. All right. Thanks. So we're going to move on. And we're going to look at consideration of approval of a change order with Robert Wohler and Sons Construction for water improvement 2016-1 Madison Avenue 1st to 7th project, resulting in a net increase of $136,513.82. Do I have consideration of this change order?
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. John, nice to see you up here.
And still wearing red, by the way.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I imagine a bit ago it would have been a different color for the guy standing up here. But I just want to offer a little explanation for the change order. It will change the contract price for our water improvements 2016-1 project. The main reason for that are paving changes that we're doing. When we started removals on the road, we realized the structure of the street, the paving structure of the street is different than what we expected to see. So we require 10-inch paving instead of 6-inch paving to be able to tie that, the new pavement into the existing street. There's like 4 to 6 inches of asphalt on top of the the existing street out there. So we're just increasing the depth to be able to dowel the new pavement into the old. It also allows for removal of the thicker pavement section, saw cutting the thicker pavement section, as well as some miscellaneous items on the water improvement side of things, just for repairing pipe and changes that we saw in the field. And the change order does allow for the extra pavement thickness across the entire project. We may not see that thickness required across the entire project, but we wanted to get the total price out there for you guys to consider tonight. Any questions I can?
Yeah, so on the front end of this, do we not do any borings or any of that kind of thing that might tell us what's underneath there, right? up
I don't
front?
believe we did any borings.
No? Is that not, do we ever?
A lot of times we'll have a good idea based on as-built on what the existing pavement section is. I'm not sure where the errors came from on this. I can't speak for that myself, but typically we go off of existing or as-built drawings to figure out what the pavement section is.
That's a good question. And again, you know, I appreciate your coming forward and wanting to speak to this and help the council to understand. We always get a little concerned sometimes at those bigger numbers.
Sure.
So
Sure.
hopefully we don't see you too often, but appreciate this tonight. So,
Yep.
any other questions for him?
Is that maybe something that you would put into how you take a look at these things?
It's probably not a bad thought. It would probably give us a better idea on what's there. And with the age of this street, it may, yeah, if maybe we didn't have perfectly accurate drawings in the past to get a good sense for that.
Well, probably well to point out, it would not have changed the overall cost of the project any, but
Not
it certainly would have
significantly. We would have been doing
reduced
this.
the change order?
Yeah,
had
we would have
known?
been doing this either way,
Yeah.
if we knew it originally or not.
Okay.
Any other questions for John?
John, do we have a time frame on completion of this project, close to?
It's progressing a little slower than we were hoping. It will not finish up this season, so we'll be finishing up next spring, most likely. So hoping to get to finishing everything up to about 4th Street this year, and then proceeding from there to the west next
Okay.
spring.
Is that something that'll be communicated then to the business owners down in that area?
Yes,
So they have
definitely.
plenty notification to plan?
Yep, we can definitely try and touch base this fall when construction's shut down. Then I think most likely with the extra startup next year, have a meeting next spring with them to let them know what's going on.
Okay.
So we'll communicate that as well as we can.
Thank you.
So they're gonna tie into 4th and stop, and that's gonna be open?
We plan to have all the pavement across all the areas where we've done work, to close it up well for the winter.
So the street's gonna be closed all the way to Madison?
No, we'll have concrete on top, so
Fourth.
it'll be,
The 4th Street, wherever we stop here.
we'll have all the paving done on top of the installations, for winter. And all the street will be open throughout the winter.
Okay. Anything else?
Just one question. Historically, and I know it's kind of, everything's thrown off because of the activity in the area this year, but historically, do the unit prices that we see here reflect, are they reflective of what we've seen before on like 10-inch stuff or not? I don't have those records, you know, I've been around long enough, I should have them, but.
I think it's consistent with what we're seeing. Paving prices are just expensive, and we were seeing that all over. And in fact, when we bid the Norfolk Avenue Bridge project, those prices were higher than we anticipated as well. So, and they're consistent with what we're seeing here.
And that was what I was kind of getting at. The only fluke in this is that it's 10-inch in lieu of, I've taken prices this last year for 8-inch, and yeah, it's more than what 3 years ago I wouldn't have paid anywhere near that, but it also is a reflection of active and vibrant economy and construction industry, so.
Sure.
And lack of, you know, it's not
Workforce.
just this area.
Workforce.
It's statewide, so that's a good thing, but it's a bad thing, so you just live with it.
Thank you, Councilman. Nothing else for John?
One more.
Okay.
So when it starts up again on Madison, when are we thinking, like, close down for the season, and then when will they start up again?
As soon as weather allows, we'd like to get them in there as soon as possible.
Try to stay out of like the school, the start of school year, because, Madison's heavily traveled for students and,
Sure.
you know what
That
I'm
would
saying?
be
Like,
pushing it back some.
start in May and we get into the summer, finish up the
Yeah,
summer.
we should be started.
No, we're gonna.
End of
we-
March, April.
Yeah, but then we won't be carrying through till
Try to be done,
September.
yeah, I mean, we need to keep moving this project forward, and
definitely, yeah.
we had hoped that it would have started earlier than it did this summer.
That was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was,
And the traffic deal, especially with schools,
sure.
But First Street is open, so.
Yes, that is good. Made it to
All
the
right.
meeting on time.
Keep it up, John. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, if nothing further, council, I would ask for your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, and last is consideration of ordinance number 5437 to amend section 24-293 to add Hy-Vee East at 120 East Norfolk Avenue and Country Club Plaza consisting of 600, 700, and 714 West Benjamin Avenue in Norfolk, Nebraska to the list of locations that can be enforced under section 24-292 of the city code. I'm looking for a motion for consideration.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor. Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Chief, a new face. Nice to see.
Your Honor, members of the council, Section 24-292 of the official city code makes it a violation for anyone operating a motor vehicle to drive across someone's property without stopping and actually conducting business at that property. It also goes on to say how an owner of that property can be added to Section 24-293 that would allow the police then to enforce any violations on their property. They have to send a letter to the police chief, and then it's placed on the agenda for your consideration. We received two such letters. One of them was from Hy-Vee East, and the other was from Country Club Plaza for properties at 600, 700, and 714 West Benjamin Avenue. Their basis for making that request is that they have a number of vehicles that cut across their properties, either to avoid the traffic light or because it's a shortcut to get down to the street rather than going around and actually taking the regular public streets. They consider it to be a safety issue for pedestrians walking across the parking lot there, and they've asked that they be added so that we can enforce that. The Police Division's recommendation would be that we go ahead and add them to the Section 293 so that we can go ahead and do enforcement as we see violations. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
I just have a short one. The, if you pull into Country Club Plaza and you're going around to the business in the back there, is that cutting through?
No.
No?
You, in order to be a violation, you can enter onto the property, but you have to actually leave the property and go back onto a public street for that to actually be a violation. You could enter the property, drive around past a couple of the businesses, and then stop at the business you actually wanted to stop at, and that would not be considered a violation.
Okay. Does that address need to show then too, or no?
No, I
Okay.
don't think it would necessarily have to.
Okay, very good. All right. Any other questions, anyone? All right. Thanks very much. Short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 24-293 of the official city code to add two addresses for enforcement action related to driving or turning on public or private property, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
And with that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5437 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5437, I believe it is, on second and third reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5437 on second and third. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5437 carries on second and third.
All right, and with that, on the agenda is closed session. And I have a motion to go into closed session, please, to discuss and be updated for the elected officials on the potential religious land use and institutionalized persons act litigation.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second. Please vote.
You may not hear that easy.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Okay, the motion carried in the closed session is to discuss and update elected officials on potential religious land use and institutionalized person act litigation.
So we don't get it.
We'll head to the training room for a bit.
I'll be in there, they're all going to that.